This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 online art school in the entire world. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours podcast. We're your hosts. I am Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we're going to talk about how I stopped listening to political news and how it changed my life.
But before we get into it, make sure to like, touch, press all our bells and buttons.
Over there is a little finger. I want you to touch it. I want you to touch that hand. Hey, how you doing? You look fantastic. We took a little break for 4th of July because we knew you were going to take a break for 4th of July, so we hope you had a good one.
Yes.
You had a celebratory one. Hope you did some fireworks and ate some meat.
Yes.
Ate some good meat.
You look great. You have that 4th of July glow.
Glow. It's a summer glow.
You have that, like...
Burnt, toasted shoulders, you know?
Burgers in your stomach.
Toasted shoulders.
Grilled meat in your stomach. Or mushrooms if you're a vegan. You look great.
You look great. And the people in, I think AX happened this weekend in LA. Hope everybody had a great, fantastic anime expo.
Yes.
It looked huge. And I'm really shocked by that because I was really worried about the convention scene and about, like, you know, are people going to go to conventions? And Anime Expo still looks like it's on track to being the next Comic-Con.
Yes.
In terms of scale.
Yes.
So good luck, LA Convention Center. But I hope everybody else had a really good time seeing everybody's face cosplaying, you know.
Yeah.
Cool stuff, man.
Yeah. I didn't feel any FOMO. I feel old.
I didn't want to admit to Janet, but I felt a lot of FOMO. How could you sense it?
Yes, I could sense it. Yeah, I knew.
What you get for being with somebody for so long. You can't keep anything from them. Anyway, why are we talking about this?
We've been thinking about this recently. So since was it the last podcast? Maybe 2 podcasts ago.
We talked about Buzz Lightyear last podcast, I think.
Yeah, but we were like, in one of the episodes fairly recently, we were talking about how, like, we started listening to Mr. Girl, kind of started to wane on people like Tim Pool. And then after that, pretty much right after that, we were like, let's just not listen to news. Yeah. And, like, obviously the big stories are kind of inescapable, especially when, like, you check Twitter once in a while. Yeah.
So yeah, like that's as much as I would go. I really so before it used to be like, I'm going to talk about like this, like it's Johnny Depp's drug routine, okay, or Hunter S. Thompson's drinking drug routine.
Yes.
it's like Scott Adams in the morning. Uh-huh. Tim Pool, first video in the morning, second video in the afternoon, and then and the afternoon video, yeah, and sometimes the podcast, yeah, and then, like, you know, when things are extra, like when it comes to like legal stuff and politics, or stuff that does, like, that has to do with law stuff, I like to go to Ben Shapiro, like, you know, and then when I want, like, the everyman, like, you know, kind of liberal, actually, I listen to Joe Rogan. Actually,
yes,
he's not actually that conservative. I don't. No, people are crazy.
He just disagrees with them, and he's too influential to do that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that, like it. So yeah, we were just talking about it this morning, like how it was like a drug, and like what does. Like when people watch news, like, you know, the obvious thing, like when people watch CNN or Fox News, like what is the objective here? Do you want to be informed, or do you want to feel something? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
like deep down inside, what do you really want when you turn on Fox News or CNN?
They think they want to be informed, but what they actually want is to hear their own bias parroted back at them and to be riled up for whatever cause that they like. and to in a weird way look down on other people. I think most humans like enjoy that like weird stroking of their own ego of like, I want to look down on other people who I think are beneath me. So if we want to talk about like where we were at and why we were addicted. Why were you addicted?
Why was I addicted to the news?
Yeah.
I was addicted to the news. I think it's 2 reasons. It's the surface reason. It's the thing that you tell yourself why this is important.
Yeah.
I thought I was being informed.
Yes.
I thought I was making sure, being aware of current events and stuff. And yes, of course, that's like a huge part of it. Yes, like I think when people say that, they mean it.
Yeah.
But like it's the other thing that is harder to admit.
Yeah.
The other thing that is harder to admit is that you're a fucking drug addict. You're a fucking fiend, man. You're like just super obsessed with the feelings that you get, especially in the morning. It's like your coffee.
Right.
Of like back in like 4 years ago, I was like, oh, Trump said this. Oh, the feelings.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
I hate the other side because they're racist, fascist, whatever.
Yeah.
Or these days, like, oh, I hate the other side because like they're locking us down and telling us what to do with our body. Like, like for whatever reason, it's the same thing. But like the reasons why you're outraged, it doesn't really even matter either. It's the fact that you're outraged, and like the fact that if I tell you right now, can you stop? Just as a test, just as a check for yourself, can you stop watching the news? I think like these people, like people like us, who are like once really, really obsessed with like current events and like especially the personalities talking about them, are like that's like I think it's no one's willing to admit that like they're actually addicted to this stuff.
Yeah, like they wouldn't be able to stop watching it. The first thing that comes to mind would be excuses of like, no, I need to stay informed.
See, and then they're gonna say, like, oh, I need to stay informed. Like, it's important.
Yeah, it's important. Like, you're dumb for wanting to stay ignorant. You know, that's something that they say.
And then that's what we would like. Yeah. And wouldn't you agree that there's a point that like we would tell somebody who's telling us that like, no, I don't really want to watch the news anymore. Like that, like, oh, you're missing out on important things. Yeah. You're gonna like. You're not going to be aware of where the world and humanity and culture is moving, all that stuff. But then it's like you get perspective and you're on the other side. Yeah. And you really understand that like there's so little you can control in life. Yeah. You know?
Your own life, and that's about it. It's sometimes not even
your
that.
own life, and that's about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I did it back in I always kind of watched the news, but I would define when I became addicted to the news as like 2018. Starting 2016 was when people around me started getting really like hot and bothered about Trump specifically, so it encouraged me to want to know more about a lot of political stuff, but I wasn't truly like addicted to it till 2018. Specifically, what happened in 2018 for me was when I got hired at Disney, and I was never like I would always consider myself like kind of apolitical. Like I didn't have an opinion. If someone asked me what side are you on, I'd be like, I don't know.
Janet truly means this because I was in it at 2016.
Yeah,
I was like hyper addicted to this shit.
Yes,
and I would tell you like, oh man, like what do you think? What do you think? And you'd be always giving out like the most neutral, fence sitting response.
Yeah,
and I kind of just was like. You think that Janet's really political. She really wasn't.
Yeah. Until
like there was a specific point where like you had to.
Yeah. So for the most part, like people kind of kept their political opinions to themselves, but more and more it became like everyone wore it almost as like a badge of honor, and it was really bad at Disney. I have to say, like, if I thought it was getting bad, I like dove into just a community of people were like, that's just all they did. They like virtue signaled and just were really, in my opinion, really annoying and hypocritical in their beliefs.
Would you say that there is a scale, like a gray scale, of it's a spectrum where the studios land in terms of their politics?
Yeah, I would say.
So it's not like not every studio's like Disney.
Right, yeah. Like, for example, like the Rick and Morty studio, Starburns, not everyone. Like, there's some crazies in there too, but like, for the most part, they're pretty against the grain. And then there's Disney, which is like, for a place that values status that much, of course they would be, you know.
And I'd say there's a few of them out there who are trying their best to be
just neutral.
Just trying.
For the most part. Like, everyone's just trying to coexist. And
there are times where I could really feel like some of the studios were just confused.
Yeah.
They're just like, so what's going on? Like, people want this? Okay, we'll just make
whatever,
this.
Yeah.
But then there are people, there are studios that like, they're true believers, and they're people who hopped on the train.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you say Disney's are the true believers.
No, I would say they hopped on the train because they've always been so family friendly, you know. So there's a huge portion of Disney that's actually very conservative. People just don't want to admit that. Like, I mean, you made like preschool content for the
They make themselves invisible, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking like when you're the company that makes like Disney princess movies for the longest time, you really think you're that liberal? Like, I feel like the liberalness is pretty recent, and a lot of people are just virtue signaling to get a promotion or something. That's what it is. That's what it is in Hollywood. Like, in California, like, it's so annoying to just talk to someone, don't know what they're talking about, and you know they're just doing it for points. And it's fine. That's what it is. So at the time, 2018, not only were like movies in general being like bombarding us with like that woke stuff, I was just in a community of people that just, to me, seem like you're batshit crazy. Like, leave me alone. Just like, I'm just trying. You made me political. I was like the most apolitical person. I was just like,
you backed Jan into a corner, man.
I was like, I'm going crazy here. And so listening to Tim Pool and as new, like, in my opinion, the most middle of the road people I could find was like me trying to keep my sanity.
It was like your anchor.
Yeah, I was trying to, like, in a weird way, it's like venting a little bit, and it is in a weird way like trying to find people that match my own bias and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's just helped me not like become Milton from Office Space.
It's my stapler.
Yeah. So that's why I was addicted, and then we became very addicted. We like watched him like constantly. Eventually watched Scott Adams.
It's not like, okay, so it's like I don't want to say I'm never not going to watch the news, because I do check in once in a while. Mm-hmm. Especially I like to get it, especially now that I don't want to listen to it too much. Yeah. Just give it to me straight and just give me like the highlights. And I think Styx is still the best at that. Just 8 minutes of pure, like, just give it to me straight, and then you just go on with your day. And I like that. But like these days, I hardly even check in with Styx, Hex and Hammer.
Yeah. So why do you think we stopped? We decided to stop like 4 years later.
Why we decided to stop? Basically now.
Yeah.
And I think I was telling you, it wasn't even really a decision. Just like how you got backed into a corner, yeah. I felt like I really just succumbed to the idea that I've been paying attention to the TV show that is America for 5 years, and like, it's cool, but it's, you know, it's like a TV show. You see these things happen over and over again, and like, just like clockwork, almost like a season of TV, peaks and valleys happen. And like there's like things that obviously no one can control, like shootings and like that's, but like there are other things that I'm like, is this like a news cycle?
Yeah.
Is this like, is this fake? Not really fake, but like, is this like something like you have this planned? Just like how like Instagrammers have later to like plan their Instagrams and stuff.
Right, yeah.
Like, is this like planned like a calendar to this day you're going to talk about this story and this is how you're going to outrage the public? Is this how it's going to be? Because after paying attention for 5 years, it really does, and liking movies and TV shows, at this point, it felt fresh in the beginning because you thought it was new and random, but you start seeing the patterns and you go like, these things... like the abortion thing comes out over and over again. What we should do about the people who shoot other people happen over and over again for the past 5 years. And there's personalities who talk about it for years now, and they still happen.
Yeah. Like
and like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing they're doing.
And there's nothing they're not doing anything either.
Yeah.
And like it gets to a point where you watch enough of this stuff and you like sit back and you go like, the only thing I can do is like live.
Yes.
So I'm going to live, because like if people are doing the whole peddling how doomed we are and how the fucking Civil War is gonna happen again, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fucking live my life, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do.
The cycle repeating is what made me incapable of getting outraged anymore. Because like when you're young and you're looking at the news, everything feels like the sky is falling.
And that's what it felt like when we were first addicted to it.
Yeah. But then like it's amazing, the news cycle is like 4 or 5 years, and then like literally the same, like clockwork, every summer some kind of BLM thing happens, some kind of shooting happens, and some kind of abortion thing happens
right before an election season, like before an election year. There's like some sort of BLM protest. Antifa takes like some sort of quarter in some town square. It's just like the same thing over and over again, and like the simulation isn't actually that creative.
Yes, and everyone, all the politicians, all the news people, everyone's just saying the same thing. And if you're creative, you've maybe thought of a number of solutions.
By now,
yeah. None of which either side chooses very specifically to ignore. And it pisses me off. That is what pisses me off.
It's
the
like
manipulation.
They know the solutions, but they actively don't want to fucking even talk about them, even address them.
Yeah.
The fact that they could exist.
Exactly.
And it's like whatever nonsense that you think of, I think of, whatever. What if like there's some truth in a solution in some of that somewhere? Like you don't hear these people talk about it. It's all about just like how the world's ending, and how we're screwed,
how you
and how
vote
there's
for
a
me,
civil
so
war.
I will fix it for you. Except it never. That might like the fix that they're peddling is the fix that they peddled like years ago, and it didn't fix anything. So you're just like, like I'm not so upset at the actual thing that they're trying to make me upset anymore. Abortion, school shootings, whatever. I'm more upset the fact that you're trying to manipulate me exactly the same way 4 or 5 years later, and nothing has happened, and I'm just tired. I'm just fed up. I have no more fucks left to give.
When the gas is high, the tax is high. Some places the food doesn't even taste good anymore. Why should I give a shit?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to live. Man, I'm just trying to, like, figure out what makes me happy. Because I could die. I could, like, I don't know, something really bad can happen. Apparently, all these people say something really bad could happen. Like, okay, if something bad's really going to happen, I'm just going to live my life.
Yeah.
How about that?
And
because that's the only thing I can control, you know?
I thought, I made this comparison recently in my mind that really, like, changed my view on politics and politicians. I realized that like what kind of people are the people that go into politics? And then I thought about, like, growing up in high school and elementary school, you have your, like, student government council, and you remember those the two types of people that run for student government. One, the overachiever hall monitor that, like, asks the teacher on Friday, hey,
did you click the homework?
Yeah, you forgot to sign his homework. No. That person I just wanted to, like, punch. And then there's the other person, the douchebag, who was, like, gifted physically at a young age, probably the jock or the cheerleader or whatever.
And Gavin Newsom's
yeah, and doesn't actually care. I don't even, they what they want is to be adored, and they want to be popular. They want their status in society
like
to
Patrick
be
Bateman.
Yes. So then they lie to you and they pretend like, I'm going to give you free pizza every single week on Fridays, and then they get elected because they're charming and good looking. And that person I also wanted to punch, because usually in my school those would be the people who would bully me, and I was like, oh. And if you've lived long enough, you realize people, like, high school is like a mini society, and high school is just expanded into the real world. And nothing, you think as, like, a young person that people get more mature, they start knowing what the fuck they're doing in life, they have, like, purpose, and people have callings, and they do great men. They become great men and women, and
they figured it out.
Yeah, they figure it out.
Totally
no, okay. As I've learned at Disney, as I've learned in college, now that I've learned I'm a adult. The world is one big giant high school, and no one ever changes. Nothing, like, you look at all the politicians in our country, and it's like, oh, I have a high school equivalent to the person you are in my head. And I was like, this is a bunch of bullshit. This is everyone lying to me that they're gonna get me pizza on Friday. And I'm like, okay, when is that gonna happen? So it's just like, it's the same. And you went to a Catholic school, private school, a bunch of them, Catholic, all boys, and then like a co-ed one. You had a funny story to tell me, because I mean, it's different when you go to a private school.
I don't think, like, it's neither here nor there. I think it's just like a story about politics. Yes. That, like, I experienced when I was very young. Yeah. That, like, I shrugged off, but, like, it was kind of emblematic of politics of today.
Yeah.
So, like, I came from a all boys school. I was there for 3 years, and then on the third year, they closed it up and went bankrupt. So I had to, like, find a new school to go to. I found another school in Santa Monica. This time a co-ed school. Mm-hmm. So imagine the culture shock for me. So I go to this school, and my best friend also from my original school came with me, and he is the class clown. Uh-huh. Like, I'm the artist, and he's like the crazy class clown that, like, gets away with all sorts of hijinks. I'm sure you've known one of those in your life. So it's really novel for this school in Santa Monica to have all these boys come out of nowhere, enroll in their school. It's like, you either don't like it, you either, like, dig it because it's new.
Yeah.
And, like, we came in as seniors, and my friend fast becomes one of the most popular kids in school. Not by trying, just by, like, attitude, as animation people would say. Just, like, pure attitude. Uh-huh. And when it became time at the end of the year, and at the end of the senior year in the school in Santa Monica, there's the valedictorian. Everyone, I think that's by merit, right?
Yeah, like, you have to have, like, taken a certain amount of classes, gotten a certain amount of grades and extracurriculars.
Right. And I'm always having a hard time pronouncing it. What's the other?
Salutatorian?
You can't even do it either.
Yeah.
Salutatorian, whatever.
Yeah.
The second one is elected, right?
I think for me, it was also merit-based.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in my school, it was, like, all I know is that, like, ours was elected. So everybody thought we were going to vote for this specific person because they're high achieving.
Right. Yeah. They technically deserved it.
They technically deserve it, of course. Of course they deserve it more than anybody. But like, everyone voted for my friend.
Just to mess with the school.
Just to mess with the school. And like, the rest of the school doesn't know this, but like he and I talked about all the crazy shit that he would put in his speech at the end of the school year.
Oh my god.
And just like how like we would turn it into I kept saying like it needs to be like the end of The Breakfast Club, but then like Animal House at the same time. And then we like drafted this. We talked about like while we were on the bus or something. No, while we talked about it during lunch about like what he should say. And then like when it became time to vote, it's not like there was a campaign or anything. It was just like everybody was like, I'm gonna vote for him. So it comes time to vote for salutatorian, and like it's it's very political. It's very like legit, like our election system is totally legit. You write who you want on a little like strip. You put it in like a little box.
Yeah.
And then they like counted it, and then I was watching the teachers like a hawk. Like there was like horror in their eyes because they were all expecting like the person who deserved it to. This was unbeknownst to the teachers. They thought it was like a sure thing, no brainer. Man, it reminds me of 2016.
Oh my god.
Sure thing, no brainer. But then all of a sudden I could see like their eyes just like going horror, and then like all of a sudden they murmur and they talk to each other. And then the class representatives, the presidents, were talking with the teachers and all that. and then they were like, the other person is salutatorian or whatever. And then me and my friend and all the people who were really enthusiastic about how epic this was going to be, were like, what? What?
How dare they?
How dare they? I remember my friend, like he on Instagram still, like I think it's one of the friendlier people at school, but like he on Instagram still is like one of those waving the flag MAGA people.
Oh my god.
He went like, the system's rigged, man. The system's fucking rigged, man. And then I was like, I'm like a virginal, young, impressionable, broken-hearted 18-year-old boy going like, what? What system? And then I'm just looking at this, and then this is my perspective now. And I'm looking at this as I'm going like, this is so supremely unfair because like, later on I heard through the class presidents who are friends of the friends of friends, through the grapevine, that like, of course, like my friend had all the votes,
right?
But he didn't get it because, like, obviously the teacher, it would be a monkey, it would be like a fucking disaster jungle zoo situation at graduation, and they knew that. They knew what we were planning. They knew what we were, and mind you, we weren't even from this school,
right? So like, you guys just co-opted this.
We just co-opted this thing.
And just ruined it for everyone.
So like there I was thinking like everything was so supremely unfair. That, like, but like I was like, surely this is high school. Surely like, it's funny because at the same time, man, my life is like this, the simulation's like some weird parallel movie. At the same time, Obama gets into office. Yeah. At the same exact time. But then I go like, oh, everything happened for a reason. And like Obama's gonna be great. And he's our first black president. And he's gonna be really intelligent man. He's gonna be great. And you think that the adults in the room know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
But then, like, you get older, and you realize everyone is just as clueless as you are.
Yes. And you realize, like, because other people also know this, that they're just using the system to their advantage. So, like, when we say, like, people don't care, like, they aren't doing anything to make things better. In fact, I think they're making things worse. And everyone's just out for money and to win. To win what? I don't really know, but to win. And it's some pride, ego thing, and I'm just like...
I told you so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm tired. So I've been listening to The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. It's basically about how it's really, really good to wake up at 5 a.m. so that you can become the best person you can be. If you like productivity and self-help, books and you don't have time to read them, head over to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast to get your free trial of Audible and get a free audiobook. That's audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe podcast.
Listen to a book.
Like I never got into it for reasons of like
a sport.
Yeah, like I genuinely, I think like a lot of people thought like innocently like, oh, if you try hard enough, like, these are great people, you could change things, like it's important to know what's going to happen to my life and everyone's life, but like it's all that election in your school. It's all that, like it's every election I've ever experienced in high school. It's bullshit.
Yeah, okay. So like back to the story, when I was 18, I really was like, because of that story, I thought politics and everything, especially after, like, you know, with the war and stuff, I thought like everything was a bunch of bullshit. But like in an angsty, naive way. In an angsty,
like
emo
you didn't
boy
actually
way.
know.
I didn't actually know why, but I had a sense that like powerful people are assholes and like they just want to screw over the little guy and all that, you know, all that, like, yeah, I love Rage Against the Machines, like type bullshit.
Right.
And then you get older and you're like, well, okay, like that's when I was like a dumb, naive young man. I'm gonna actually pay attention this time.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit older and you're like, no, I actually was onto something.
That's right.
When I was a young person.
16-year-old.
And it really feels like I went through this entire political journey just to get back to where I was after my high school election.
Yeah.
And just feeling like I can't control anything.
Yeah.
Like no matter how much I planned and campaigned with my friend, like I couldn't change anything. And then like and the naivete of like going through like the entire news cycle from 2016 up until this point, 2022, thinking that like if I paid attention, if I supported the right people, things would be different.
Yeah.
And I don't think they are.
No.
They're exactly the same.
Exactly where
a different shade of the same thing.
Yeah. So I guess because all of this feeling of like, I just don't care. Like, you can't make me care anymore. There's nothing you can do to outrage me at this point. We were listening to the news would make me angry and upset, not because the news would make me angry, upset. I would just felt upset that I can see through everyone's manipulation. And so we were both like, you know what? This doesn't do anything for us anymore. Like, we should just stop. Let's try it out. I
don't think we had a conversation like this. We just didn't. We just didn't even talk about, like, usually one of us goes, oh, did you see whoever's video? And then we go either yes or no and talk about it.
Yeah, it's more like randomly at the end of the day, I tell you, I decided not to listen to Tim today. I make these decisions in my head.
I think you told me that.
But yeah, and then,
I didn't even tell you that.
Yeah.
I just was thinking about it. I was like, oh, well, when something important, I think important, or when I see a headline that is like interesting enough, I'll probably click on it.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I actually wasn't really much on YouTube. This week actually, just like chilling.
But what was like we just kind of did it naturally, I guess, together. What immediately happened when you just kind of stopped?
I think all of a sudden, time and space in my mind and my life opened up a little bit more. That I realized I had so much time and especially energy that I could use on other things. So like getting into watching movies again, getting into doing art stuff, and we went to the bookstore recently, bought some books, art books, getting into like getting inspired again. Yeah. And then not getting caught up in the weeds of like the what of the day.
Yeah. And
I think that's what I've been feeling.
Yeah. I like was painting this house, painting this room. And usually I can't look at something while I'm doing something else. So I like to listen to news to just fill time. Without like those hours, it was hours of news I was listening to. Without all that, I was like, I have nothing to listen to while I do all this mundane work. So I explored more podcasts, like different types of podcasts.
I caught you listening to last podcast again.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in like
I'm
3 years.
a huge true crime person, and yeah, I haven't caught up in a really long time. I was listening to all sorts of like video essays, and I was
Janet got really in the weeds of video essays about Kubrick.
Well, one. And in general, I did have more space in my head to be creative. I think as a result of that, like, I started having all these ideas of like things to talk about with you, just like food for thought stuff. We had more energy to watch movies. We could just, in general, focus on the things we do in general, like art. Like, you had more time to focus on music and your hobbies. I focused really hard on like working on this house and stuff. I don't know why. It just felt like I had more time. If anything, and I wasn't stressed. I wasn't stressed and angry all the time. I was more like just introspective of a lot, whatever random video I was listening to Emma Chamberlain's podcast. I was listening to internet analysis video essays and Kubrick video essays and camera equipment stuff, Stardew Valley tips and tricks. Like, I was just so in my head. I just felt so much more creative, less stressed out. All aspects of my life just seemed to improve after I stopped listening to news. And it's amazing how none of the news matters.
Yeah.
Absolutely none of it. And if something did happen that's really huge and important, people will probably tell you about it. You'll probably see it when running at the gym or something. Like, I don't know. And I was just like, wow, this after doing it for like I think a week, I was like, oh, this is so great. And then by the second week, I was like, I can't even, like, I'm still subscribed. Like, I haven't unsubscribed to a lot of the news people that we subscribe to on YouTube. So occasionally I'll still see their video pop up in the thumbnail, and I have the opportunity to click on it if I wanted to. And then I look at it and I just go, I just don't care anymore. Like, even when I decided to not listen to news anymore, I'd still occasionally have the urge to click on one or two, but on my phone or whatever. But then by the second week, I was like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like, I don't care. I just don't care. What are you talking about? Like, sometimes some of the headlines are so ridiculous, and I go like, literally, why would anyone care? I don't understand. Like, I don't care. And I would consider myself back into the fray of a normie at this point, of like, I want to not know, so that when I see a headline that actually matters, I'll probably, I don't know, watch it maybe. But like, at this point, I'm looking at all the headlines, I'm like, these are like ridiculous. This is like, why would I care? How does this affect me? The only thing that really affects me at this point is like economy news. And like, I have Meet Kevin for that. Like, I have like all the finance bros that I listen to for all of that, and it doesn't enrage me like political news does. It's also made interactions with real life people a lot easier for me. I think, like, when we first moved here, I had this assumption that people were just as politically active as we were. Or at the very least a little bit less. Like, I'm sure, I was sure everyone reads the news or listens to the news every single morning, and they know what's going on at all times. The longer I've lived here, the more I realize, like, that's not true. Most people just don't care. So like, stop listening to the news. My mindset when talking to other people changed from like, I'm worried about what you think of me, what your political leanings are, to just like, you're a person, I'm a person, we don't talk about politics.
We're lows.
Yeah. Like no one actually thinks about that stuff when they're like trying to talk to each other in real life. And it made just the anxiety, like, I already have social anxiety and like looking people in the eyes and all that stuff. The social anxiety that I have just decreased. And like, I can just look at someone and be like, you're just a person. Like, and we don't have to like get into the political stuff. So in general, I have less. I think people can sense when you're just like a little bit like anxious to speak to them or whatever. I just feel like that has made my relationships with people a lot easier. But where that stuff still exists and still makes me upset is on Instagram, is on social media, because I feel like I can't escape it. I used to go on Instagram for inspiration and just to see what my friends and the people I follow are up to. Now I open Instagram and I see all this abortion art or abortion posts. Like, it's so annoying because I know you do not care. I know that you made this piece of art.
They would say they care a lot.
Yeah, like to them.
And they would say you're
falling.
awful for not caring enough.
Like, oh, women's rights are being taken away. And I'm like, none of my rights have been taken away. I can still do whatever I want. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then, like, everyone is, like, posting their obligatory piece, photograph, whatever, about how their rights have been taken away, and to donate to this organization. It's everywhere. And I was just like, why aren't people making art anymore? Because now that I have like stopped listening and consuming all this outrage bait, I'm just like making the most art I feel like I have made in like so long. I'm so creative. I can think about it and not like other random bullshit that is causing me anxiety. And then I look at people, I'm like, why are you doing this? Make the thing that you want to make. Stop clout chasing. Like, that's the thing. They're not even doing this for money. They're doing this for followers because they're making money for some organization. Like, they don't care. Like, they don't care about the money at this point. Like, they want the clout that comes with being like, oh, I'm so outraged. Like, support this cause and follow me and like my piece because I am like you. And I was like, art just doesn't exist anymore. And it hasn't for a really long time, like ever since I think like the pandemic happened. And I was thinking to myself, like, why is it that people don't make just something more personal or something that they truly believe is meaningful and they have something to say? Instead, they're just making this propaganda for whatever cause that they support. And I was thinking, like Scott Adams said at the beginning of the pandemic, that like there are a lot bigger issues right now. So artists who are watching this, because there are a lot of artist fans of Scott Adams, like, you know, great comic artists. Artists, no one cares. No one cares about you right now. Sorry, that's just how it is. You don't make the rules when a pandemic is happening and people are dying and all this stuff. Like, people just do not care. And I was thinking about that. Like, that truly was like the start of like the convention scene started to like fade. People just, it's just not became less. A lot harder to make money and to get people to like your art and to follow you on social media, to watch your YouTube videos, whatever, starting from that point. Because prior to that, it was actually really easy, comparatively. So I think about that, and like technically the pandemic's over. But now we have inflation and like everyone's shouting that there's civil war on the horizon and the abortion stuff. Like, to a lot of people, your art seems like not important. It seems like, why are you trying to get me to care about your bullshit art when like what we're saying, that like the news is not important, everyone else has the opposite view of like, no, your art's not important, your culture is not important, your movies, your whatever, your music. This stuff is the abortion stuff. So everyone, in order to stay relevant, to get followers, to get the kind of success that they want as a creative person, they understand to make money, to survive, to get people to care about them, they have to pander to what people actually care about right now. These, in quotes, like important issues. That to me aren't so important. And recently we watched Dr. Zhivago. If you have not seen this movie, it is a beautiful, beautiful movie that you would say is like required watching if you want to work in animation.
If you want to be a production designer in animation and you haven't seen David Lean, a David Lean movie, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Bust out the paints and the sketchbook and just sit there, watch the movie once, and then go through it again, pause, paint, draw.
Yeah.
Go through your favorite scenes where you think, oh, the light's so beautiful here.
Yeah.
Paint, draw. Oh, this establishing shot is amazing. It's like something out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Pause, paint.
Or like
draw.
the Russian castle is basically frozen. Like,
oh, dude, for real.
Once you know where all these people get their shit from, like, nothing's original. No one's actually being creative. And yeah, so we recently watched Dr. Zhivago, and what struck me about the themes of that movie was like how it related to today. And the premise of this movie, it takes place right as the Bolsheviks in Russia are about to take power. The Bolsheviks are basically communists, and prior to that it was the Tsars and the monarchy and the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it. But it's so much more personal than that. It just follows this doctor / poet who is just trying to survive during this age. And kind of the point of that movie, one of the characters in the movie basically tells the doctor that like, I used to be a big fan of your poetry, but now that revolution is happening or on the horizon, I can't relate anymore. Like your poems just seem petty personal stuff that like, how can I care about when I'm basically going to become the leader of a revolution. But ironically, I'm going to spoil it here, kind of. Yes, I am going to spoil it. So you still need to watch the movie, because like the movie is so much more than just like the story. At the end of the movie, you realize that like the poetry is what lasts, though. Like Dr. Zhivago's art was what lasted more than the revolution. Certain people die, and what they thought was their legacy and everything important that they were fighting for, they just disappeared, and no one will ever remember who they are. And every generation, there's going to be a new revolution, a new whatever important thing that's going on. But what lasts is the art. What lasts is like this art about love, basically, brought people together. Like on both sides, even when his art was banned, people were like, I liked it though. Like it spoke to me. And I'm like, how is it that some poetry about love was able to get like communists and capitalists and people who are like for the Tsar and not for the Tsar, and just to all agree that this is nice. This, like, they could come together and like enjoy this person's art. And I was just like, that's kind of like a really big theme in the movie, and I felt like that speaks to me specifically right now. Like there's civil war on the horizon, there's so much important stuff, everyone seems so consumed by all this stuff, and I'm like, but none of that is important. In a weird way, it made me look at like my own art, my own weird things that don't seem to matter to anyone other than myself. My weird vlogs, my videos about DIY, my story of leaving the city. Till it might sound ridiculous to say, like, to me, it's more important than the abortion topic. And I genuinely think that. And other people might like, you're ridiculous. You have such a big ego. You're whatever. But I'm like, this stuff is going to come and go. And
it'll be back again.
Yes. And this stuff drives people to hate each other. And it doesn't do anything. At least the point of my art isn't to make people hate each other. It's not to, like, at the very least, I don't know if it brings people together. I'm sure people on all sides of the political spectrum can appreciate
People
DIY.
in all sides of the political spectrum just love dunking on you.
Yes.
That's what they come together for.
Yes. And so to me, I feel that way of like, yes, this like personal, what I consider real art, something that like you need to say and do regardless of what other people think of it or of you. It's something like you can't explain it, but you need to say it. I think that's that's art to me. Like, that's not fan art just to make money. It's not like propaganda just for the clout. Or even if it's not for, it's still propaganda. And I feel like, why aren't people making that anymore? And the thing is, I think a lot of people want to. I think if you're a true creative, you're a true artist, it makes you very upset to just have to do things for clout, to get people to care about you, for you to do fan art to get people to buy your things because we have to eat. I get it. We've all done fan art at a certain point just to eat. I'm not like knocking that. I understand like you need to make money. But I feel like even like 4 or 6 years ago, there was a balance. Not a very good balance. I still think people tend to like want money and want to eat all that stuff, but there was a balance of like, sometimes you make art just for yourself to self-soothe, or like you said, that's what we were doing with like our music video, with our April Fool's video, and I didn't think about it like that at the time. I never really think I do art to self-soothe. I'm so like analytical in my brain. I always feel like I'm doing it for something. But when I think about those projects, it was to self-soothe, actually. Looking back, it was to like, I had something to vent, and I made that regardless of whether it be successful or make money or how. Most of the time when we know we're making something meaningful like that, when you ask me like, what do you think people are going to think about this, like in a like excitement, and I genuinely don't know. I do not know how some people are going to react to stuff like that, and it makes me want to puke sometimes, but it's also how I know like I need to do this, like because I want to, because it's something I need to say. And I guess the point of all of this is to say that I'm sure there are a lot of creative people out there right now who just feel like, oh, well, so easy for you to say, I really do want to be making art, but like no one cares. And I guess I would say like in Dr. Zhivago, people will care again eventually. The cycle continues, and I think it's important to continue to make that kind of art, maybe on the side while you're trying to eat.
Even to think about it.
Yeah. In the meantime, because maybe they might not care now, but they will eventually. They'll have like the space in their mind for it when they're not so angry about whatever they think, the revolution, whatever. Yeah. So, in this episode, we are recommending Dr. Zhivago. You should watch it, even though
Beautiful movie. Yeah. Beautiful movie, just a study. Yes. Absolutely wonderful movie. Wonderfully acted.
Yes. Obi-Wan, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Alec Guinness is in it. Oh, man, he's great.
Yeah. If you like this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, jingle all our bells and buttons. Check out these other episodes to binge all our other episodes, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.